in success, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose family, you're gonna lose a bunch of things. I equate it to a horse having blinders, and I didn't want to see anything else or care about anyone else. So it was just work, 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 work. I always want to turn back around and help those that couldn't make it. You can't take it with you, right? Like,
Welcome to another episode of You versus You. On today's episode, I have Eif Rivera, director, producer, and writer of some of the hottest music videos out in the music industry, from Cardi B to 50 Cent, not to mention a little hit show named Power. His recently released film, Killing Castro, which just premiered at TIFF. Today, we're going to touch on creativity, family, growing up in New York, and what it truly means to chase success. It's really interesting, the thought process behind more, right?
yeah,
Like, I think one of the hardest questions every person that's sat where you're sitting has a hard time answering is just like, what's enough? You know, what is the idea of enough when you've been programmed your whole life to just keep getting? Like,
yeah.
nobody told us when we were getting programmed this way, when we were learning these lessons, we were seeing other people be successful. Like, all right, even Lex, this is what you're going to do. You're going to work hard for 10 years.
Mm.
On the anniversary of your 10th year, you're going to settle down. You're going to have the, like, nobody
Right,
said that. It
right.
was like, you're going to keep working until something happens. And then when you have that something else is going to happen. And then you're going to want
Yeah,
something else. And then you're going to want something else and something else. And you end up in this roller coaster and this kind of chasing of the mouth, trying to figure out where is that you're trying to find. And
right.
that's what that's what led me to the You versus You. Honestly, I was getting to a point where my entire life I felt like I've had this clarity of vision.
Right.
Okay, I know what I want, I know where I want to go, I know I'm building this. And then I started getting to a place where it's like, damn, I've been to like every award show.
Mm.
I don't want to go to no more award shows. Damn, like,
It changes too when you get a family.
oh yeah. And you start like thinking about your time. And so I think about all those moments and even the private jets and the stuff, and you just start thinking like, I'm grateful and thankful for being here,
Right.
but the clarity kicks in that now you're doing it for money. Like, there's a sense of creativity that's exciting, but there's also like routine based, okay, the same old work.
Right.
And that leads me to ask you, where does your creativity come from? What is the inspiration that makes you as a human say, I want to create and express that through film, through drawing? I was reading that you created the Terror Squad logo,
Big fun.
the Big
Yeah,
Pun logo. Okay,
yeah.
so where does that come from? And have you always been creative, or something you developed in adulthood?
No, no, no. So, I'll take it back, man. My older brother used to draw all the time. He collects comics, and then he would sketch, and then so I started watching him. I started sketching as well, and drawing characters, and then growing up in the Bronx, right? Eventually, I'm gonna give my age away right now, but I grew up in the '70s. You know what I mean? And so I grew up right in that era, the birth of hip hop. And like literally across the street from me, Grandmaster Flash lived there, and they had this church in the corner. And every Friday, different crews would come and they throw block parties, right? They did their jams. And it was crazy because back then everyone wore their sweaters that it said like their crew name.
Mm,
So we have your sign or like Gemini,
yeah,
Sagittarius, Virgo, Capricorn, whatever. And the back would have whatever crew you were with, right? With the little bunny, right? You remember those
yeah,
sweaters back
yeah,
in the
yeah.
days? So my neighborhood was always called the Unstoppable Crew. But they would throw these block parties, man, and it was DJs and rappers. I mean, early on, man. And so I grew up loving hip hop, and with hip hop comes graffiti and everything, breakdancing, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Dude, I just got into graffiti young, and I find myself 12, 13 years old bombing trains, and because I knew I could draw, so I wanted to like express it
Yeah.
and get it out to the world. Yeah, then it got to the point where I was doing canvases and selling canvases and stuff like that. Then I got down with Tats Crew, who was a well-known graffiti crew out of New York in the Bronx. And that just kept on, man. Eventually, I went to art school. So I went to art school in Manhattan called Art and Design, which I don't even think exists anymore. And there I met more graffiti writers, which is pretty ironic. But that's where like the creativeness of just being around other artists, right?
Mm.
And I think going from the Bronx to a school in Manhattan opened up your eyes to like now you're seeing diverse group of people, right? Because the school had every different race. And so you made friends and stuff like that. That led to me working with I had a childhood friend, Gabi. I don't know if you know Gabi. He worked at Loud Records. And then I went there and I started doing logos for them, album covers. I was working with every artist. And I always kept that up, you know what I mean? And I think that when the time came, when in the era of the DSLR cameras came about, picked up a camera. My first customer was Fat Joe because we grew up together. And so I told Joe, and he starts laughing. And so he's like, cool. We shot the video. So I'm self taught. I didn't go to film school. I didn't learn how to edit myself, shoot,
Wow.
everything. And I never forget, man, video drops. He got like whatever, a few million views in a week, which he wasn't used to on YouTube. And then a week later, I get a phone call from like it was Sean Money XL and Dr. Dre. Like they wanted me to come to LA and work with them. And I was like, nah, this can't be real, right? And it was, man. I went to LA, met Dre, and worked with him and Snoop and a bunch of other, you know, um, what was the label back then? Aftermath.
Yeah.
Came back to New York, then I heard 50 wanted to work with me. So met 50 in New Orleans. He was down in New Orleans shooting a movie, and I went down there to shoot a video with him. I never forget, like I knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I'm Terror Squad. Like I'm down with Joe. Like, and this is when
And
they
this is
had their
it, yeah,
yeah,
when they
yeah, they
were
had
at
their
war.
beef.
Yeah.
And I knew 50 knew, you know what I mean? And but he was like, we shot the video and he was like testing me, what lens you using and stuff like that. And then at the end of it, he was like, where you staying? And I was like, bro,
Yeah.
like, where we going with this, right? And I said, I'm staying here. And he came to the hotel, bro. We stayed up to like 4 in the morning. And he just kept playing me music and we got along. And after that, man, I mean, we've done like 40, 50 music videos since then. That was it, videos led to commercials and then
Yeah.
TV and film, which we could dive into. But for me, it was transitioning into moving art. And that's how I took it. I went from drawing and stuff, and then how do I create and make art move?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and that took time as well. It took a long time. And I think 50 saw that in me and he just kind of wanted to hone that in and kind of nourish it and really help develop it, which is what he did. And when the TV thing for him came about, I was right there. You know what I mean? And got the opportunity and I was ready for it.
When working with all these artists, especially in the different eras of hip hop, right? Because I think, when we started in music, there was this everything goes mentality. Like you could say whatever you wanted in the music. Like people didn't have the fear of getting canceled the way that, today,
Right.
everybody's thinking a little twice. Everything's a little bit more perfected, even though there's obviously there's many artists that are pushing the boundaries daily, but what was it about the time change from how you were looking at positioning a music video, say early 2000s, into how you would look at it today from a creative point of view? Are you limited to what you could do, or you feel like from your POV, then you're still telling the same story?
I think nowadays is a choice whether you want to work with a person who is probably not putting out the right message, right? And I think that comes from growth and understanding like not all money is good money, right? Like because it's eventually it's gonna fall back on you because if you create something for a person who just has bad intentions or just wording things the wrong way or just saying things that the general public doesn't agree with, then I think as a creative and just as a human being, you have to know when to back away and say, I'm cool. You know what I mean? And I can't do that. I mean, I've been in those situations, and it is what it is. It's just like I'm cool. I pass.
As a creative, when working with other people who obviously they're hiring you to position their vision, which is it's very different than being the creator originally, writing a script or building something from scratch, where you're now having to deliver and bring somebody else's idea into a
Mm.
vision that could be digested by a public. In that process, have you ever felt the frustration of like, I wish I could tell this story my way, how I want to say it, and not have to be in this?
It's funny you say that because I think early on when I first started doing music videos, and this goes for any director doing music videos, they probably don't necessarily know how to tell a story or doesn't know how to present what the artist is looking for. And as you know, some artists write songs, but it's not what a lot of times what you think. What they're saying is not really what they mean, right?
Yeah,
They mean something else. I think for me, it was always about having the conversation with the artist first, right? So I get the record, listen to it, and I want to pick their brains. So what would you think, and what are you thinking? How do you see this, right? And I think for me, the battles were always between the record labels because they don't understand the artist's vision, or they think that the when I say artist and musician, I think sometimes they think the musician doesn't know what they want, but it's their art that they're trying to express, right? And I think that as a director, you have to align yourself with that person and their vision of when they sat in a room in the dark and started writing this song, right? So it's about getting in their head, and then just it's collaboration, man. It's collaborating. There are times where an artist would send me songs like, I don't know, whatever you want to do, right? And I think when you get to that point, it's because now they trust you and they've seen enough of your work to know that this dude's gonna give me something. I don't have to worry about like I just give him the song, he's gonna make it happen. So I think it's time, it's collaboration, understanding the artist, dealing with the label, and just kind of like, you know, expressing to them what it is. But then so you kind of have to kind of balance both worlds because the label is the business and the artists a lot of times don't understand the business model. So you got to kind of be in the in between. I end up becoming the in between and explaining this is why we're doing this and this is why you need a product because the product needs to pay for some of the video and so on, right? Or your
yeah,
wardrobe,
yeah.
whatever. So it's really more like as a director, a lot of times, and this is the same with television, the same with film. As a director, man, you're a teacher, you're a father, you're a mother, you're a brother, you're a sister, like all these things because you're getting hit with so many creative questions. And so you have to be able to like, you know, from just preparing yourself to what it is you want to do, that you have to explain that
Yeah.
and you have to guide them. But also, if they have something, it's not about alienating them or their ideas or their thoughts. It's about hearing them out and saying, okay, I'm going to implement some of that. I know how this works. I can still do my shit, include your shit, and together we'll make it work. And 9 out of 10 time, it works.
Out of all the work you've done,
Yeah.
when you look at your life, you look at the sacrifice it took to get here. Is there anything that you would change about how you perceive the moments? Not the moments, right? I know that the question always gets asked, and people are like, "I wouldn't change anything because, I wouldn't
Right.
have big hair." And that's like a straight
Hmm.
up answer. That's like, come on. We all look back and say, "Wow, if I would have perceived that." But is there a moment in your journey where you're like, if I would have changed how I looked at that moment, or if I would have appreciated that moment more, I would have enjoyed it. I would have taken the lesson from it.
Right.
Is there a moment that you could pinpoint?
For me, I think it was a sad moment. For me at the time I was married when I was doing videos. And I didn't realize that I was going. Like I equated to a horse having blinders, and I didn't want to see anything else or care about anyone else. So it was just work, 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 and I neglected, right? I neglected family, friends, and stuff like that. So that's what I took from it. Like that was the a moment for me, and then just kind of looking back at it, like I've learned now to cherish time more and life and people. you know what I mean? And just kind of enjoying the moment because, people go through ups and downs. And for me, that was a down point in my life because I didn't realize I was doing that to hurt, my wife at the time or anyone else because I was just kind of zoned in and locked in to what I wanted to do. But I think the flip side of that is that it's a thing, man, that I think everyone needs to have in order to succeed. Like you got to have that drive. And I think that, at some point in your rise to whatever you want to be, right? In success, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose family, you're gonna lose a bunch of things. And I think that for me, I always say, I always want to turn back around and help those that couldn't make it. And I always, even to this day, that's all I want to do is, it's that quote by Denzel where he says, like, you can't take it with you, right? Like, you got to give it back. So for me, I think, it's like you get to a certain point and then you're like, you look back or you look down, however you want to take it, and there's nobody there. You say, man, what did I do wrong? You know what I mean? Or what did I do right and what did I do wrong? Right. So this is internal questions that you have to ask yourself. And then I think there are people that just say, it is what it is. I don't care. And I'm going to just keep going. Or there are people that, think about life and the struggles and everything else and understand that it's not easy for just anyone to do it and consider yourself blessed, and having the power, God, whoever you want to say it is helping you, to drive and push to get you to where you think you want to be. But I think it's important not to, burn the roads on the way up, man. Burn the ladder. You
Yeah.
can't do it.
It's so interesting because mindset and programming plays such a huge part in how we take in the world. And in our business, there's this kind of explosiveness road to success where you start seeing things happen. Like you get a call, and all of a sudden another call, and another call, and a call. And there's these moments, these capsules. It happens for an artist where they go from like struggling, not making it, nothing, and all of a sudden they have 3 years where they reign the world, and their world is their baby. And then it starts slowing down, and people start finding reasons to not like you, and then you can't catch a hit, and you then have to face with, well, what success actually means for me, and how do I reprogram my brain to accept what it is. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people suffer. A lot of the artists that I've worked with, a lot of the people that I've got an opportunity to work with in this business have a hard time dealing, not with the way up, but with the way down after massive success. And the realization of that, which we were talking about prior to to filming, is at what point is it enough? And are we truly looking for the money, the awards, the acclaim, or are we looking to feel self worth?
I mean, I think that's an individual person's take on it, right? Because what is enough? What are you looking for? Is it the fame? Is it the money? Is it, all the luxuries that come with it, right? Is it about living in a penthouse or a big mansion? And I think ultimately it's about who you are as a person, how you were raised, right? And then also how you were educated. Because in order to sustain that lifestyle, like you said, right? Like in order to be educated and educate yourself, you have to look at others that came before you and what was their journey. Where did it end up? And how did they succeed? And how do they stay relevant? How do they stay wealthy? And all these different things. And then you have to, be educated enough to understand, like, okay, if I'm getting this money, what do I do with it? How do I start investing it instead of like buying all the cars that become meaningless? And, what do I get into? Is it properties, the watches? You know what I mean? You have to have the right people around you. You have to educate yourself to understand what that means so that you can sustain your life after the high falls, right? After you are, 3-year run and then you start going down. It's like, well, if you're educated enough to prepare yourself for that, then when those 3 years come, it's all about like, yeah, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I got enough now to, and I know enough So, and I've invested and I've done things to say, okay, now I'm cool. I'm living off of this. I'm living off of that. And there's perfect examples of that, right? I mean, you got 50 with vitamin water. You got Nas, all these guys that invested
Mm.
and I mean, Nas just brokered the deal for the casino. Like, I can't even imagine what he's gonna get off of that, right? But I personally know a person like Nas, and like Nas is super humble. You know what I mean? I think that's another thing is about being humble and staying grounded, having the right people around you. You know what I'm saying? Having the right friends and family to be able to kind of guide you, man. And the sad part is you get a lot of these guys that don't have.
In your life, what's one teaching that life has tried to give you that you keep running away from?
Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure that out. Selection of friends, I guess, if that makes sense. Having people that come into your lives and then, other people telling you that person's not good or that person should be around, or you start to kind of wonder what is that person's motive, right? Like, why are they coming around? Why are they here? What do they want? And then you either start helping these people out and then you realize later on it bites you, right? Or it was the wrong thing or whatever the case. So I think that's one of the things I'm always like, 'cause I think part of it is just being too nice to everybody. You know what I mean? Letting anyone in and giving them the opportunity. But eventually a lot of times you get burned by it. And so that's one of those things that in life I have to like be better at
Mm.
in not letting just anyone in. You know what I mean? And it's sad because I think that what if you don't let in the right person and then that person ends up, later on in life, you're like, oh man, and I think it's happened to probably all of us. I mean, I see people that I kind of help and put on all of a sudden they're like way up here and I'm like, how did
Yeah.
this happen? You know what I mean? But again, it's just trying to I think for me it's just that's it, man. I don't
Mm.
think I have anything else in life that I'm running from or you know what I mean?
When people see success, right? They see you directing, they see you having that, and we talked about our talents being that muscle that gets overdeveloped and allows us to move forward and create.
Mm.
What's the undeveloped muscle in your life that, you know, keeps you up at night, that when no one is seeing, everybody's seeing the glory and the red carpet, it's something that you're struggling with yourself?
We just talked about this earlier, where I find myself I can't sleep at night while I'm up certain hours of the night. I think it's mentally for a director or anyone's entertainment, it's always about what's next and am I good enough? Am I doing the right things? Right? Why aren't the calls coming in? Or why am I being considered or not being considered? It's all these things that kind of mess with you, right? And I think that, and it doesn't matter that you've done the things you've done, TV, films, or whatever, because every new project is a new thing, right? It's not that it's a new opportunity that comes to you, but it's about how do you execute it, right? So you get the opportunity, what are you going to do with it? Or you hear someone telling you something's coming your way, and how do you prepare for that, right? How do you, or just the phone is just dead, no one's calling, right? And you're just sitting there going like, yo, what's happening? Like, am I not hot? Am I hot? Like, what's going on? So I think those are the things that mentally messes with you, with me. And I think that it's not because it's not like you need it, right? Because when I'm not working, a lot of times I enjoy my time, like family and just chilling and doing nothing, like absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. Like that shit feels great at times. Like just lay there and like don't call my phone, right? Whatever the case is. And then the other part of you is like just asking yourself, what is it? What is it with work, and what is it with you, and why aren't you getting the calls? Like I said, and it's just you just question yourself. And I think at the end of it all, it boils down to, well, what is it you really want? What is it you really, really want? And if you really want it, why aren't you going for it? Right. And so these are the things that bother you internally. And you just kind of question yourself and you say, do I have the resources to get it done? Or do I have to pay for the resources to get done? And so on. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, man, in your mind. And you're just trying to figure this all out and see what works.
Do you know what you want? Like, have you been able to identify, like, that's the goal I'm searching for? Or that's the feeling? I had Derek Grant here, who's an incredible, coach and mental coach, mindset coach. He said, what we desire is not the Lambo or the million, it's the man who we have to become to get there. We desire the feeling of what that person has grown, matured, developed, the sense of peace, the sense of financial peace, the sense of accomplishment. In your personal life, can you identify what is it that you want?
It's funny. I mean, I think you hit two things. I mean, it's peace, right? And it's people don't understand the chaos with some of the stuff that we spoke about, the mental chaos that goes on. People don't understand, like, I got my mother who lives with me because she's a certain age and I got to take care of her, right? People don't understand, like, when I was prepping to shoot my film, Killing Castro, my house caught on fire.
Hmm.
These are things that you're probably the first person that knows this, like publicly, but it was like, what is going on, right? Why is all this happening to me and everything else? I never forget, like, I remember my house was burning, man, and I called 50 and I was like, yo, dude, my house is like on fire. And like my mom at the time had a broken leg. She's 82. We had to carry out the house and it was chaos. It was complete chaos. And he said to me, it's the devil. He goes, you're about to embark on a new chapter in your life, making a film, and he doesn't want you to succeed. He doesn't want you to go to the next step. So you can't let it take you down. You can't let it bother you. You can't cry over it. You just got to keep pushing forward. And man, it was like like a year and a half of like living somewhere else that is not your house, and insurance is paying for that. And then while they're rebuilding your house and stuff like that. But to come back to, you know, I say peace, right? Peace. And then not just for you, but peace knowing your family's good.
Mhm.
Peace knowing that you have enough money that you don't have to chase it, right? For me, that's what you know, what I'm aiming for is just that. You know what I'm saying?
One of the things that in my personal life, I mean, I can relate when I was going out after what I wanted and money and the acclaims and the applause, because I think creatives as a whole, we there's a part of us that by default kind of feels that am I good enough, because you live in such a volatile industry, right? It's not like, oh, I created a product and they left and it made $1 million. No, it's like today that product sucked. Tomorrow I spent 3 months on a song and the song comes out, nobody cares about the song. But one of the things that I've implemented into my own life in the process, the idea that nothing has to change in my life to be okay. So instead of putting it towards a future goal or a future expectation, is just being able to be like, how am I okay with today? Understanding that really I don't even control my next breath. So
Mhm,
therefore I don't control anything in my life other than my thoughts, my mind, and how I perceive right now.
mhm.
How do I get into a space in my mind where I can calm myself down and regardless of the fires around me, center myself in a place to perceive that information in a different way. And it's one of the hardest things to do because we're humans. Like when you're going through the struggle or the fire, where you lose a job, where like all these things are going on, the life feels like in chaos. And one of the spiritual leaders that I speak to, he mentioned something to me that I thought was incredible. He says, you've been programmed to always look at the light at the end of the tunnel when you're going through a hard time. But what life is trying to teach you is to dance in the fire.
Mhm.
Is to sit in the middle of it all and just learn to calm yourself even when chaos is
Right.
going around you. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds really easy, brother. Like you live in a mountain somewhere. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like,
Right.
but in real life, as I started to implement it into the mindset of less doing and more not doing, I started to understand that we don't miss 100% of the shots we don't take. We miss 100% of the shots we don't see.
Right.
And we don't see them because we're trying to make decisions in the middle of a fire all the time and always trying to be proactive. So as I've implemented that in my life, I've started to see a life-changing experience happening in my how I experience life. But it also in conversations like the one we were having brings me to always ask the same. If today was the last day, what would change about how you perceived today? How you taking life today?
For me, that's a tough question because I feel like the last few years I've been thinking about love, just love for everybody, self love. So when you say if it was the last day, what would I change? I would say more time with family. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would want, just to be there in those last moments. Because again, man, in life, it's this constant chase, right? And I always say that I'm in a race against time. And I say that because we don't know when is our time, right? So when you say the last, we don't know. And so I'm always pushing forward because I don't know if tomorrow's going to be there, right? So I'm in a race against time to leave behind a legacy, to leave enough for friends and family to be like, I'm good. You know what I mean? For my son to be like, God forbid my dad passed away, I'm good. He left me straight. And I'm working towards that, right? Like that's my focus now, man. I came into this the last couple of years, man, just like this thought where, dude, I had the cars and everything. I got rid of everything. Like I had Porsches, everything, and I was like, I don't want it. I got rid of it. I was like, I don't need a car. I don't need this. I don't need that. I just need one car. I got two, but I was like, I just get the two. I stopped with like the crazy just buying sneakers and what watches. Dude, at one time I had like, you know, 30 Rolexes. Like I was just collecting and I was like, why? You know what I mean? Like it's cool if you're doing it to put away and it's like this is like
Uh,
money you're putting away because you educated yourself enough to know what to invest in and some of the stuff we talked about earlier. So you take some of that stuff and you say, okay, cool. But lately I just been like, and I guess it's maybe because I know I'm getting older. You know what I'm saying? I'm 54, bro. You know what I
Looking good,
mean?
brother. You're looking
Thank you,
good.
man. And
You got the fountain of youth in your house.
yeah, man. So it's all the pateles, right? What are the
Exactly.
I'm in this place, man, where it's like I want to create, I want to be able to give back. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to talk to people and good people and people that want to do something and figure things out and have a good reason why they want to do something and figure it out and kind of be a part of that. And when that moment comes, that
Yeah.
it's my last time.
One of the things I can give you as a personal experience, as a friend, as someone who's shared the lifestyle that
Yeah.
you live in this crazy industry of ours. My life started to change when I understood two very important things. One is no one needs saving.
No one needs saving.
No one needs saving.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, for me, it was hard
For
because
you to save them is what you.
yeah, because I grew up in a understanding of like my life has to have purpose, my life
Right.
has to have this, I gotta this. I would enter relationships and love relationships with the idea that I'm like, Doctor Save Everybody, and my stress and my worry was always around this idea of I have to make sure everyone around me is good. At the expense of whatever that is for me, it's okay. But if everyone else is good, then I'm good. And then I started to understand a lot of it had to do with my own idea of self love,
Mm,
my own idea of needing to feel like I was enough, I was valuable enough to perceive that. And the second was this idea that I earned things. When this idea was first introduced to my life, I was like, makes no sense. Yeah, of course I earned. And I started to analyze that idea because that's just the way that I am. And I started to understand, wow, well, waking up, going to sleep, opening my eyes, talking, walking, breathing
mm,
are all gifts.
mm,
I don't earn any of those. That could change at any moment. The creative gift, the talent, my life experience, how my parents grew up, divorce and all the craziness, and how I met one friend to the other, all gifts. I couldn't have perfectly planned for you to be here today, even if I wanted to. Like 1,000 things got moved and we still ended up here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I started to understand that everything is a gift and that what we do with discipline and hard work is being good shepherds of that gift, right? Kobe didn't get gifted, like he didn't choose to be a certain height, and he chose to use that and then develop
Right.
it. But the sizing, the natural talent, the ability, the mind clearance to do it, that was natural. That came to him. That was his parents' birth, right? So when you erase this idea of earned and you treat it as a gift, you stop chasing
Mm.
because you understand that it's not the doing that's going to get you where you want to go. It's the standing still so that you can find peace in here
Mm.
that then will create out of a place of wholeness and out of a place of need. And I started to implement that in my daily life in taking time, for example, for myself in the mornings where I said, I'm not going to take anything before 11 in the morning. Like,
Mm.
I'm going to spend time, even when my daughter was a baby and I didn't have a daughter, it's like, I'm going to spend time with myself.
Mm.
Like, I'm going to get out of bed and instead of grabbing the phone as the first thing, I'm going to do breathing exercises. I'm going to just meditate, or I'm just going to drink a coffee and look outside the window and
Mm.
be thankful. And what it started to do in that first part of the day, it started to show me things I was not seeing. And I started to notice whether it was synchronicity, which I had an expert in synchronicity, a doctor, come here and explain the concept of these kind of breadcrumbs that
Mm.
the universe and God gives you. But I started to notice those things. I started to notice when it's like, why is there always, a seventh? Or I'm talking to you now about something, and all of a sudden I walk out and like something we just mentioned, someone else says it. And I started to be able to connect these things. And in my personal life, it transformed two things. It created more peace, which is what at the end of the day we're all craving. Like all these ideas of all stuff is what we want is just we
Right.
want that feeling.
Right.
And second, it allowed me to start seeing things I just was missing because I felt that I had control over my life
Mm.
and over these circumstances. And as I release control, which is one of the hardest things to do, this why I think life hits us so hard is because we're stubborn as shit. Like, you know
Mm.
what I mean? We're always trying to. I started to see things and I started to live a different version of my life that by default caused changes in what I valued, to your point, what I valued in material things, what I valued in relationships, what I valued in my personal life. And so I share with you because as many podcasts I've recorded with as many extremely successful people, I think success sometimes teaches you more wrong than right.
Mhm.
It teaches you to create this pattern that, yeah, you got here by doing all these other things. So you, in your mind, put 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
I'm going to hustle, 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 hustle because that's how I got here. But it's teaching you to live a life that's filled with suffering because while you might accomplish that thing, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where you did that project, you were working so hard for the days over, and you're like, why do I feel like that? Like they call
Right.
it, an adrenaline dip, where
Right.
you're just like the next day after you wrap the movie, you're like,
Exactly.
"Ah,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So as I say all these things though, and as you look at your life, and we were talking before about kind of the ever evolving transition of like career and
Mm.
life and things that you've done, when looking at the next 50 years of your life, when looking at you have a son, right?
Mhm.
Looking at your son's life, if you can leave him a lesson about this world, what would it be?
Unforgiving. This world's unforgiving, and you have to know what you want and work hard for that. I always tell them, like, man, you know how many no's I've gotten, and you can't let yourself, because others are afraid to take the leap. You can't allow that to do the same for you. So, at the end of the day, man, I mean, I say it's unforgiving because if you fall into all those traps, like, find yourself 30, 40, 50 years from now questioning what happened. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have that peace, if you don't have the success you thought you wanted, and so on. I mean, I see it all the time now, man. People look at me and that either I came up with or my age bracket or whatever the case is, and they're just still trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I remember one time I went to go see Joe at Hot 97 and Angie was there, Martinez, and she knew me from back then and doing logos and everything else. And she was like, How? How did you become this guy? Like, how did you become this director to all these stars or whatever? And I said to her, because I took the leap. I took the leap, you know what I mean? And you don't do it. It's unforgiving, man. No one's gonna care. So that's why I try to instill them. You know what I mean? Make sure that the things you decide you want to do, and it's just research, man. Just, you want to do AI? That's the thing right now.
Uh,
It's so much, man. It's just like, I think again, man, as a parent, man, you have to guide them. You know what I mean? So I hope that answers the questions. It's
yeah.
the funny thing is that for me, I look at life, man, I had it rough. You know what I'm saying? I came from, dad passed away when I was 12, four brothers, one sister, on welfare, dude. Like eating, standing on that line to get government cheese and powdered milk and all that back in the 70s and 80s. And you take that, and do you let that continue to bring you down, or you and defy you, or or do you defy that and try to grow and do better? Like I said, man, I've been through so many different points in my life, man, that now I just look at life and everything that I'm doing and grateful. You know what I'm saying? It's funny you said there are days you wake up and you go get your coffee. Dude, that's me every day. Like I get up, my phone goes on silent like 10 p.m. 9:30, 10, I boop, silent, do not disturb. I get up early, 6, 7 in the morning, coffee, and I sit right in my backyard when it's nice out.
Yeah.
And I just sit there, dude, and all you hear is birds chirping. And you're just like,
And those moments are the best moments, isn't it? Like you could have done anything else in the world, but there's something about that serenity of you with yourself
it's the
and the
best.
universe.
It's the best, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's not the chase anymore, man. It's for me, it's just like, like I said, I just did my first film and I'm about to jump into the second one and different mindset. What can I do with my time? How can I be more creative? What can I do? What are people gonna like and so forth? And that's where I'm at, man. And so I'm in a good place. I always tell people, I say, listen, man, um, you have a job, you make what you make. I have a job, I make what I make, but it's still a job. We're both working.
Yeah.
You can't, you know what I mean? Like my expenses are above yours or vice versa, whatever. And you can't worry about that. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what I mean by staying grounded.
So as we end the podcast, we have a question we always ask. I talk a lot here about the power of words, right?
Mhm.
And how your mind doesn't know the difference between truth or false. It just knows what you tell it. And even though we're a lot kinder to other people,
Mhm.
we're with ourselves the most and we're hard on ourselves. But we know that our words can have power on ourselves as well. So if there's one word that has to hear today for himself that will help him with his you versus you battle, what would that be?
Word for myself.
Yeah.
I mentioned peace before. Yeah, man, it's still peace. I mean, I would have too is love and peace. But in knowing that whatever you get into next, or whatever's coming into your life or whatever, take it in with open arms, you know what I mean? Peacefully and like hear it out. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, you can't lose your mind over it. It's just I'm at peace. You know what I'm saying? It's like we were talking earlier about the Will Smith thing, but it's like I was excited, but if it doesn't come, I'm like, it's whatever's meant for you is gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think just in life and waiting for anything to happen, you got to have peace within yourself. Peace, understanding who you are, peace and love, peace in whoever you believe in, whether it's God and whatever the case is. That's for me, you versus you is peace.
Eve, thank you so much for being a part of this
Yes,
journey,
sir.
man. It's a blessing to have you here, and it's the first of many things we'll work together on. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate you
Thank you,
being
man.
on the
It's an
show.
honor, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You vs. You is a production of Neon 16 and Entertain Studios in partnership with the iHeart Michael Tura Podcast Network. For more podcasts, listen to the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.